are at 4 o'clock here local time, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and then we'll just kind of let everybody else jump in as we get going here. So to those of you that are back from some of our previous webinars, thank you so much for continuing to support us. Having fun with us. We've really been enjoying doing these webinars for you throughout this fall semester. And this is our last one for 2020. So let's get a lot of a good engagement and see what we can learn today. So, and for those of you that may be new to our webinars, thank you for joining us, taking some time out of your day. I know it's tough to fit a lot in between that Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday break. So I appreciate you spending the time with us today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Garcia. I am the co-owner of Maker Maven along with my wife, Jamie. We started Maker Maven back in 2016. And as you may have heard a little bit ago, we actually got started rooted in the library. So my wife has been working with specifically librarians for the better part of 10 years now here in the greater Houston, Texas area. And as STEM and STEAM and maker education and all of that really started to grow and really get ingrained in all different levels of education on our campuses, we were getting a lot of questions, you know, where to purchase certain items, how to get resources and good ideas. And at the time, there really wasn't a lot of people doing it. So we figured, you know, why not us? We literally started by counting out straws and popsicle sticks and putting them in bags and creating our own challenges for teachers. And then from there, we've been blessed enough to meet some great people like Tara and Melissa here from Ozobot and work with these outstanding companies that bring you like the latest and greatest in ed tech. I also would love to introduce Brianna Kua. She's with us today. She's going to be helping moderate the chat a little bit. You know, and facilitating some questions and moderating the social media throughout as well. So she's our director of marketing and brand communications. So you see those awesome STEM challenges that we do. If you subscribe to our newsletter and you get our STEM challenges, you get the Maker news and any other blog posts, Bree's hands are all over that. So everybody give her a virtual applause for that because she's been outstanding. So few housekeeping rules I want to go through for some of you that may not have joined us before for some of these webinars. We really want this to be as engaging as possible. So although we are in a webinar setting and you're not going to have the ability to speak and ask your questions, we highly encourage you to engage in the chat. Now make sure that you have your little bar clicked to show all panelists and all attendees. So we can see your questions. You can get some good back and forth with the other educators that are in the chat as well. Toss around some ideas, ask some questions. If you have any questions, so as Melissa and Tara are going through some things, you say, oh, that's really cool, I'm doing this, pop that in the chat. Let's see what everybody's doing. If there's any quick questions we could get answered in the moment, we'll go ahead and do that. If you have any other, you know, long form questions or anything that might require a little bit more explanation, like specifics on how to use Ozobot with third grade ELA, and we can use the Q&A section for that. So go ahead and type your questions in there. We are going to take some time at the end to get all of your questions answered. So please don't be shy. Lakewood Elementary, we love you too. Thank you so much for joining us. That's very sweet of you. So just like we've been doing, we're going to be doing some fun giveaways as well for this webinar. So we're actually going to be picking 2 winners from today's webinar. Each are going to win one Evo Educator Entry Kit. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great way to get started and really see the power of what the Ozobot Evo is able to do, as well as, you know, moving on forward with more classroom, you know, integrating with your Google LMS and things like that. So it's really excited and a great way to get started if you don't have them already. If you already do, it's another robot for your collection. So the way to win, social media. So Twitter, we only have Twitter and Facebook listed here. We have a new Instagram page as well where we're going to be doing some fun stuff. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all at maker_maven. Take some screenshots. Tell us what you think of the webinar. Anything cool that you see or hear from Melissa or Tara today, make sure you shout them out and make sure you tag at Ozobot as well. So the more engagements, the better chances you have to win your prizes, and we'll be picking those winners at the end. So that's enough for me. I'm sure none of you are here to listen to me talk. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Melissa and Tara. So we have Melissa Toohey with us today. She is the EdTech and Adoption Specialist for Ozobot. So all things Ozobot, Melissa's your go-to. Tara is with us as well. She is the channel manager for Ozobot, and she's who I've been working with on the back end here, going over probably a little over a year now. I think I've been working with Tara. So very excited to have both of you on. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll go ahead and stop talking now so we can learn a little bit what y'all have to offer today.
Great, thank you so much. I'm just going to get my screen up here. Is everyone able to see my presentation? Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Toohey, and I have Tara joining me as well. Really quickly, I just want to go over what we are going to be covering today. We'll go into Ozobot's 2 ways to code. We're going to show you our latest and greatest offering, which is our Learn Anywhere lessons that you or any educator you know can use in your classrooms. We'll talk about different ways you can go one-to-one or have students use Ozobots in your classroom. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions. We'd love to know more about you and your situation. We know things are crazy right now, so we do appreciate you taking the time to come and join us today. So we'd love to hear in the chat who you are, what you teach, what grade levels you work with, and how familiar you are with Ozobot as well. And if you'd like to share whether you're in a hybrid, remote, or hybrid setting, that would be really helpful as well. Again, my name is Melissa Toohey. I'm the EdTech and Adoption Specialist here at Ozobot. I'm a former kindergarten and first grade teacher. I founded a coding, engineering, and design thinking program at a Title I school in South LA. I've coached teachers in implementing computer science. And when I am not at Ozobot, I'm at UCLA pursuing my doctorate degree in educational leadership, where I'm focusing on all things computer science in elementary school settings. So I live and breathe computer science, and I'm just so thrilled that you all are here and interested in delivering that to your students today. I'll pass it to Tara to introduce herself really quickly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tara. Just a quick overview on me. I've been with Ozobot for over 6 years now. I was one of the original team members that helped bring our original model BIT to market. So if you're familiar with BIT, we started off with that model robot, and now we've moved on up into Evo. And now we have our great remote friendly lessons that you guys can use. So we're really excited to go over those with you today. And then Natalie's not with us. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not here today, but she is one of our curriculum developers. You might see her in some of our Ozobot hosted webinars. She's just such an incredible mind and curriculum developer and former teacher as well. So that's someone you might see around if you follow us. And Tara, would you mind just speaking about the 2 ways to code very quickly?
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't as familiar with Ozobot, we are a tiny desk-friendly robot that teaches students the basics of coding and programming, and you can program Ozobot 2 different ways. The first is screen-free with colors, so essentially just with markers and paper. We have a patented color codes, we call them, and they're a series and sequence of colors that tell the robot to do different commands. So speed up, slow down, turn right, turn left, and the students will just draw these color codes within their activity sheets or just free drawing, and then that's how they control the robot. There is a list of color codes up on our website if you want to take a look at those. So that's a great entry point. It teaches the kids the logical reasoning and sequential thinking behind coding in a very not intimidating way, because students love drawing and using markers and paper. So then from there, we move them up into our second way to code, which is on screen with blocks. So this is very similar to any block-based editor that you may have used in the classroom, Scratch, Tinker, Blockly. So our editor is actually called Ozoblockly. We are powered by Google's Blockly, and you just simply drag and drop little blocks of commands together to create your program, and you can easily connect your robot via Bluetooth and then send the programs directly over to the robot. So that is web-based. So you would just go to ozoblockly.com toohey.com to be able to access that editor. So that was just a very, very brief overview on those 2 ways to code. If you want to learn more, you're more than welcome to go to ozobot.com, to reach out to Matt at Maker Maven, or even to Ozobot employees or support team to find out some more. So I'm going to pass it on over to Melissa so she can get started.
Great, thank you. Today we're going to cover our Learn Anywhere lessons. This initiative was conceptualized back in March when COVID-19 hit the United States, and things just kind of got thrown up in the air when it came to schools and closures, and no one really knew what was going on. We as an Ozobot team wanted to prioritize supporting teachers and ensuring that students still had access to computer science and robotics education and STEAM education. We were really concerned that students would no longer have access or would be deprioritized. So we've done everything we can as a team to create content that is teacher friendly, student friendly, and takes all of that heavy lifting off of the teachers so that you can spend your time and attention on what is most important. Now, that's not to say that computer science isn't important. It is a 21st century skill that we want our students to learn, but we know that there's so many other priorities on your list that this might be put on that back burner. So we've created content to help you deliver this computer science and robotics content without having to do a whole lot of heavy lifting. Right now, we are focusing on 2nd through 5th grade lessons. We have middle school content coming soon, so that is in our pipeline. So keep your eyes peeled in our lesson library for that, and I will show you how to get there. We recommend a pacing of 1 lesson per week, and all of our content is standards aligned. So each lesson is aligned to 1 ISTE standard, 1 CSTA standard, and then 1 either Common Core, ELA, Common Core Math, or NGSS standard. All of our lessons come with a synchronous lesson plan. So if you are an expert computer science teacher, you don't need an instructional video or extra support, we have a traditional lesson plan for you. It's just like something you'd find out of a textbook. For those of you that either would love to have the heavy lifting be put on someone or something else, that's where the instructional video comes in. We've created student-facing instructional videos that are meant to be self-paced and self-guided by students so that they can get through the complete lesson independently and on their own without teacher or adult guidance. Now, we've made it flexible enough that if you as a teacher would like to use that instructional video synchronously and use it in your classroom to help you teach, you're absolutely welcome to do that. These are all tools for you to make your life easier. All of our lessons come with a student activity guide. So for any student that might need that extra support in having a printed out guide, that is available for you to print for them. All of that content is covered in the video, so that's just there just in case as a safety net for you and your students if they have special circumstances. All of the activity sheets that are required are provided, and then any teacher answer keys or potential solutions are also included. And you can find all of our lessons in our Ozobot lesson library, which is in Ozobot Classroom. And Ozobot Classroom is a free platform. You can sign up for free and create an account. And what we recommend is that everyone starts with BotCamp if you're not familiar with Ozobot, but I'm going to jump into the lesson library to show you how to find these lessons. Our lesson library is a lesson library that is a mix of user-generated content. So teachers from all over the world and all over the country submit their lessons, but we also as an internal team create and develop lesson content. And right now our focus is on that remote-friendly lesson content. So you can see that there's a remote-friendly icon here. And that means that any lesson that has the remote-friendly icon has all of those materials that I just went over. And mainly the biggest difference is that instructional video. Let me scroll down a little bit. You can see here, this is a lesson that one of our certified educators submitted to our lesson library. It does not have that icon because there is no instructional video to go with that, but she has provided a complete lesson plan and all of the required worksheets and everything that you need for that to teach that lesson. So that's just a quick way to differentiate between the different types of lessons. If you are looking for remote-friendly content in particular, you can use our remote-friendly filter and search that way. You can also search by subject and grade as well. And so that's a quick overview of our lesson library. And this is just quickly what a lesson plan looks like. Again, it's everything you'd find in a traditional textbook or a traditional lesson plan. These are what the potential solutions or the answer key, just depending on the lesson. Some lessons have multiple different solutions. Some lessons have right or wrong solutions. So we provide all of that for you. A lot of teachers have asked, I'm in a different environment. Right now we're hybrid, right now we're remote, we might be coming back. Things are really just up in the air. And we know it's probably likely going to be that way for the rest of the school year as well. So just some tips for how you can implement this in any of your classroom settings that could be potentials. You could use an I do, we do, you do model where you model for your students or use that video and they follow along. You could also send this out as independent practice for your students for them to accomplish independently. Then when you come back at any synchronous moment, have a lot of those rich conversations with these guiding questions to have your students really reflect on their work and do a little bit deeper thinking of the different types of coding that they did in the lesson. And if you have any other ideas of how you could effectively teach computer science or robotics in your classroom in any setting, feel free to drop that into the chat. We'd love for this to be just an opportunity for us to share ideas and really grow from one another. I'm going to quickly go over all the lessons, not all the lessons, but all the introductory lessons that we have for you. These are the lessons that we recommend all students start with, and then I'll go over some content integrated examples. So for those of you that like to integrate robotics and computer science into your content, we have lessons ready for you. Our first lesson is a lesson all about Ozobot Evo. Before we dive into computer science and coding, we focus on the hardware components because students need to know how the bot works and all the different hardware components and all the different features. So I'm going to play a clip of this video just so you can get an idea of the look and the feel of the lesson.
Hi everyone, Miss Toohey here. We are going to get to know your Ozobot today. For today's lesson, you will need an Ozobot Evo, a pencil, your Get to Know Evo worksheet, and optionally, if you'd like to color, markers, colored pencils, or crayons. In today's lesson, you will be introduced to Evo's various hardware components. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to identify and label Evo's hardware. Before we jump in, let's review some vocabulary. Today, we will be exploring Evo's hardware. What is hardware? Hardware can be defined as the physical parts of a computer or a robot. As we go through the different hardware components of the bot, follow along on your worksheet to label the different parts of Evo.
So I just wanted to share that clip with everyone just so you can get an idea of what the video feels like for a student when they're guiding themselves through the instruction. You can see we cover everything from objectives to materials to front loading any information they need to know to be successful in the lesson. And again, in this lesson, they actually go through, I introduce the hardware components and they go through, identify it on their bot and then record on their own sheets. In the next lesson, and I believe this slide deck will be shared as well, or will participants have access to the slide deck? We'll share it and you'll be able to come back and take a look at the clips as well. In the next lesson, we do focus on Ozobot's line following capabilities. This is where students learn how to calibrate the bot. They learn that the sensors at the bottom of the bot are controlled by the amount of light in the room. They also learn that when you draw using a marker, the bot can line follow in black, green, blue, and red. And so they actually practice drawing the lines and they're guided through placing the bot on the lines and seeing what the bot does. So they get more practice with that and they learn about corners and curves and learn about the different best practices. So we instruct students not to draw corners or curves that are too sharp and we give them best practices like a 90-degree angle. Or larger for drawing those corners and curves. And finally, they learn all about the color identifying capabilities of the bot as well. So in this final page, they have the bot travel over they actually draw, they complete the map first with different colored markers, and then they have the bot follow. And they realize that when the bot is over the red, the LED light at the top also displays red. When it travels onto the blue, that LED light changes to blue. So the bot has color identifying capabilities as well as the line following capabilities. And there's another clip there for you as well to check out. And then in our next introductory lesson, students learn all about the different color codes. And so this is where they place the bot on the different color codes, and then they see the reaction of the bot. They practice drawing the color codes. And again, we go over the best practices. We tell them not to they have to use black marker before and after the color code. And we go through all the different best practices around that, and they get practice drawing them. We also touch on symmetric and asymmetric codes. So this is where we hit hard on the direction of the bot matters in certain circumstances. If a bot reads a color code one way, if it travels the opposite direction, it may not read the code the same way if it's traveling from the opposite direction. So they get practice identifying and understanding that and drawing their own color codes. We also include a debugging activity in this lesson. And students are able to draw the figures here on another piece of paper, and then they get to determine if the color code would work or not, and then describe the reasoning. And let me actually show you a quick clip for those of you that are not as familiar with Ozobot. I want to show you this clip so that you can get an understanding of what the color codes look like and how the bot works when it reads a color code.
Let's practice drawing some color codes. Find page 2. You are going to practice drawing these 2 color codes that are listed here. Make sure that your color code is between 2 black lines. If you try to use a different colored marker, it won't work. The squares should be the same size, and they shouldn't overlap. Don't leave white spaces between your squares or make them too dark. It needs to be just right. Watch me. I'm going to start with a black marker, and I'm going to draw my line. Then I notice it's red, green, red, green. So I'll grab my red marker and my green marker and have them ready. So I will use that chisel tip to draw red, green, red, green. And do your best job to stay within those dotted lines. After drawing your line, take your bot and place it on start. Notice the name of this color code is tornado. Does the behavior match the name of the color code? It does, doesn't it? Let's try the next one together.
So I'm going to pause there. We walk students through every single part of the lesson, enough so that they can be independent and achieve on their own. And then in our next lesson, so that is, this is our final lesson, students learn all about the directionality of the bot. They learn that when a bot comes to an intersection, if it is not told which way to go, it'll randomly decide which way to turn. Now, the bot can be told which way to go by being programmed with our left at intersection, straight at intersection, and right at intersection color codes. So in the chat, I would love for you to write, if my bot starts on start and it needs to get to the finish over here, which color code would I plug in? Any takers in the chat? So I have someone that said red. So this would be the right at intersection color code, which would be blue, red, green. They would have to put in sequential order, blue, red, green. So they would get, so the bot would know to turn right at this intersection. Students get more practice, so they actually will read through the story of an Ozobot's day and then actually use that skill again. They have to focus on which way the bot is traveling from to determine which way it needs to turn, and they get more practice with that. And the last thing they learn in this lesson is about the line switch codes, which is almost magical. The bot, when you use a line switch code, it tells the bot to keep traveling in a specific direction over white space until it finds a new line. So it just keeps going and going and going until it finds another black line to follow along. So they learn all about that. When they're done with these lessons, they're completely onboarded to all of the line, the color code and line following capabilities of the bot. Great. So for those of you in the audience, I would love to know what grades you all teach. We have lots of content in elementary and middle school coming soon. I'll be going over some of this content now, but if you have any specific grade levels, I'd love to hear so that I can spend a little bit more time or focus on those lessons as well. If you have any particular grade you are specifically looking for. But we wanted to highlight some, oh, it looks like Janice is in 5th through 8th grade special education. Great. Again, these lessons are aligned to Common Core and NGSS and ISTE and CSTA standards, but a lot of these skills that we are teaching can be used across grade levels. So even if you're a 5th grade teacher and your students need just reinforcement in some of this content, you can always go into the lower grades or upper grades to find the content that fits best for your students. In this lesson, students actually go through and do division problems. So this is an example of one of the lessons that have a right or wrong answer. Their job is to solve the division problems. Then they use the division problems, the answers, to use the color code key to color in the color codes. And their job is to make sure that all of their color codes are accurate to get from start all the way to the finish. And now if the students use incorrect codes, you can see that there are certain points, like right here, where the bot can turn right or left. So you can see that 8 divided by 2, this is likely a directional color code telling the bot whether to turn right or left. So students need to be accurate in their math facts and in their problem solving skills to make sure that they put in the correct color code so that the bot gets to the correct destination. These are really, really fun, engaging ways to teach and invest your students in their own learning. And so you can see just these are some sample solutions here with the actual correct answers for all of them. Oh, it looks like we have a 3rd through 5th grade librarian, which is great because we have a 3rd grade lesson that we are about to feature right here. This is Ozobot Plays with Adverbs and Verbs. And in this lesson, this is an example of a lesson where there is no right or wrong answer. Students are given a almost like a task, and they have to come up with a story called Ozobot Goes to the Park. And they have adverbs and verbs to use, and they have to plug them into the story. Then they actually use that story to use the behavior features of the bot to plug in the behaviors of the bot into their story. So let me actually fast forward in this video so you can get an idea of what that looks like. And I'm gonna fast forward to the very end where the story is actually modeled for them. Here we go.
Can you add color codes to your map to show the verbs and adverbs in your story? You crushed the color coding. It's time to get your bot. Ozobot is now ready to retell its story about playing in the park. Listen to my finished story and watch my bot in action as it demonstrates the verbs and adverbs I chose. Ozobot skated eagerly to the park. First, it slid swiftly down the slide. Next, it ran slowly to shoot a basket on the basketball court. Then it slid quickly to the soccer field. When it got to the field, it danced tiredly. Suddenly, Ozobot heard a relative calling its name. It was time to leave. It skipped timidly all the way home.
So you can see in this lesson, students have a lot of flexibility to become creative, to really think about color codes, think about movement, think about robotics and how a bot might be programmed to move to have those, human behaviors within that story context. So this is just another easy and fun way to engage students in learning grammar. I know that was always a challenge for me to teach and make super exciting in my classroom. So using an Ozobot and introducing that makes things a lot easier for you as a teacher. These are some titles of some sneak peeks of content that we have. A lot of these lessons are live in our lesson library. So if in your particular grade, you are interested in teaching specific math concepts or specific ELA concepts, feel free to check out our lesson library. Here's a couple more examples. In second grade, students have to pick out irregular plural nouns. So for example, in this problem, the first sentence says, my are cold, and the word is foot. And students have to determine, is the correct word feet or foot? And again, this is where that directionality comes in. Students need to realize the bot starts here. Does my bot need to turn right or left to get to the correct plural noun? And then they use the corresponding color code to code that. And it gets trickier because the next time they do it, it comes from the opposite direction. So right and left are going to be on different sides, and they have to think through all of that logical reasoning to make sure that the bot gets to the correct spot. In third grade, we have a really fun multiplication lesson where students get to plug in single digits at the top of their map. Again, the bot chooses randomly when it comes to an intersection. These color codes here are just fun behavior codes. It doesn't tell the bot which way to go, but they get to interject some fun. They can also self-scaffold. If students know that they're a little bit more, they're just starting to learn multiplication and need a little bit more time, they can use a slow code to program their bot. If they are really confident in their maths and multiplication skills, they can use Nitro Boost to make sure their bot goes very quickly. And this is where the bot will randomly pick two digits because the bot will be placed on the start 2 times. And let's say the first time it chooses 1 and the second time it chooses 5. Students would write down 1 times 5 equals 5. And then we also teach the commutative property, and students record 5 times 1 equals 5 to understand that no matter which way you place the digits, the answer is still the same in the multiplication. Another preposition lesson, we have Ozobot's Trip with Prepositions, which is for 4th grade. And students use the word banks, they complete a story, and then they illustrate their story, reflecting the prepositions that they chose and used on their paper to recreate that story. In 5th grade, we have a lesson where students have, they're learning all about ordered pairs, and they're using the markers and this coordinate plane to plot the points of a coordinate. So what they do is they find that coordinate, they actually get to choose their coordinate, then they plot that coordinate, and then they actually use colored markers to determine how many spots on the x-axis the bot needs to move and how many spots on the y-axis it needs to move. And this is where we have that one-to-one correspondence where the color on the grid represents the points. So they're doing math and they're also learning and slowing down that understanding of the ordered pairs. In middle school, for all of our middle school teachers, we have much more open-ended and a little bit more rigorous content. For color, right now, we only have color codes content in the lesson library, but middle school Ozoblockly content is coming soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you're somebody who really enjoys doing block-based coding with your students. But we have a ELA lesson where students are writing a narrative, and it's actually a 3-part series where they have a beginning, a middle, and an end of a narrative, where they thoroughly write out the narrative, and then they draw a picture to display what that narrative looks like. In STEAM, they actually go through the engineering design process where they are posed with different challenges, and they actually have to go through all 8 steps of the engineering design process to solve some of these challenges. So for example, the first lesson, students have to get from their locker to the lunchroom without crossing any of these walls. And they have to use a number of color codes to get there, and there's other challenges that we throw in. As the lessons get more challenging, in the next lesson, students only have 30 seconds to get from the lunchroom to science on time. Yet there's puddles and closed hallways. So they have to navigate through, use color codes, and really think about what their design looks like. This is just a really quick overview of what content is available. We are regularly releasing new content. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it is all free. Going on to Ozobot Classroom and creating an account is free, and access to our lessons in our lesson library is free as well. If you have any questions about the content, please feel free to pop in the chat or Q&A. But at this point, I'll pop it over to Tara to talk about student view and what students will see when they use these lessons.
Yeah, so this pertains especially to the remote-friendly lessons. So our remote-friendly lessons are currently integrated with Google Classroom. That is the only LMS that we are currently integrated with. But if you're using another LMS such as Schoology, Canvas, Clever, we'd love to hear from you because we are going to be integrating other LMSs coming soon, and we'll prioritize them based off of the amount of teachers and schools and districts that are using each one. So if you're using something else besides Google Classroom, please throw it in the chat so that we know what else is out there and what's being used. So for Google Classroom specifically, it's great because if you're already using that, you already have a teacher account, the students already have their students account. They don't have to create new accounts to access these remote-friendly lessons. They will simply log in directly with their current existing accounts. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I will give you an overview of what these lessons look like. So when I go into Ozobot Classroom, and I click on my classes section, you'll see that I have already set up 4 different classes. And this is the teacher's view specifically right now. So I'm going to go into my Tara's class remote, and you'll see that I have saved a few lessons that I want to send over to the students. Let's just say I wanted to send over what's my value. I can assign it to be sent over at a specific date and time. So if I didn't want to send it off today and I wanted to send it tomorrow, then I can definitely input that and then click assign, and it will assign it exactly when I had put in that specific date. So what the student will see, I'm going to go to my student email now. So they will log into their Google Classroom email, and they will see that they have the new assignment, and I actually have it due tomorrow. So they will also get that notification as well. So when I click on my new assignment, I will click on open, and then the student will simply just log in with their student Google email, and it will take me directly to the assignment details where I can then click to get started. All right, so now I am in it takes me directly into my Ozobot Classroom portal. You'll see that I have 3 different lessons that I need to finish right here. I'm just gonna click on one, start lesson, and it will tell the student approximately how long it will take them to complete the lesson. And it will always give a little prompt to update their Ozobot. So if they hadn't updated it for a while yet, they definitely want to get that updated, so it will let them know. I'm going to click next, and I already updated my bot, so I'll click on that button as well. It gives you an overview of what they'll be learning. And when you click on next, it will also let them know all the materials they'll need for this particular lesson. So for this one, they'll need 1 Evo, a set of color code markers, the division race activity sheets, and a pencil and eraser. Now, different schools and districts are handling this a little bit differently. So some schools print out the pages for the students who are remote, and they pass them off either daily or weekly or monthly. So you can definitely do that for the students. Others can't have any, they can't see the students, they don't come into class, they are completely remote. So they can just print the activity sheets easily from home, and they'll click on this button. It will automatically bring up the page that they need to print, and they can print it right there. Now, when I click on next, you'll see the series of lessons. So Melissa had showed you what these bite-sized lessons look like a little bit earlier, so I won't go through all of them. But for this particular lesson, there are 5 different videos that the students will work through. Oh, nope, I had to scroll down. There are actually 11. So they'll have their activity sheet, they'll work through each one of those videos, and then once they've completed, they are going to click on next. And this is where they would submit their work. So they just simply take a picture of their activity sheet. They upload it right here in this section. They can add any comments. I really liked this lesson, it was super fun, or this wasn't one of my favorite lessons, so that the teacher can kind of gauge their excitement on the lesson to see if they liked it or didn't like it as much. And then once they've completed that, then they'll be able to submit it. When it's submitted, all of that work that they uploaded will go directly to your teacher Google Classroom account. And from there, you'll be able to grade the assignment. You can send them any notes. If they didn't really understand the assignment, they just needed to redo it, then you can resubmit it over to them after you've had a conversation with them. So that is how the student-facing portal works and how you're able to use these lessons specifically in a remote type situation. But like Melissa had pointed out, you can definitely download the lesson plans and use these in class as well. At that point, you wouldn't need the student-facing portal because the students will be right there in class with you. But this is always an option if you do have robots to send home with the students. And that was all I had to cover. So I guess I'll send it back over to Melissa.
Yes, thank you. I think the very last thing I wanted to cover was if, for those of you that may not have access to Ozobots or don't have them yet, I did want to share our Shape Tracer and Ozotown games. These are completely free as well, where you can find on our website. If you go to ozobot.com and you go to create. This sometimes takes a little while, and then you click on challenges, you'll find all 3 of these games. And these games are super great as an introductory to block-based coding. For any of your students that maybe have not worked with robotics before, these are really, really wonderful introductory lessons. I'm going to open one up to show you. All of this is self-contained. What's great about this is that all the blocks that are needed to be able to meet all the challenges are here on the left-hand panel. The goals are to get your bot to travel along the colored lines and trace the shape while glowing that color. So here you can see I've already written some code. When you hit run, the simulator actually runs the code that I just wrote. And if your students do have Ozobots at home, you can use the flash loading feature to load it onto the bot, and then your students can actually run that same code in front of them on their bot. So it's not only abstract here on the screen, but you can make it concrete in front of your students if they have bots. These lessons and stages, I guess levels do get quite rigorous. I will say it's been a while since I've done Shape Tracer 2, but some of these advanced levels get really, really quite complicated and require a lot of logical thinking and logical reasoning skills. One of the goals of these games is to use as little blocks as possible to create the most efficient code. So for example, here, you think that the bot traveling face forward the whole way would work, but in actuality, I believe it's this level where you can use fewer blocks by having the bot travel backwards at some point. And so there's a lot of really interesting and sophisticated and complicated concepts that you can teach with students and have them try out using these games. We held webinars for each one of these games this previous summer. And the webinar for Shape Tracer 2 and for Ozotown, we had one of our certified educators, Lisa Richardson, who's a teacher, high school special education teacher in Texas. She joined us and gave her best practices and tips for distributing this work in a remote or hybrid environment. And you can find these recordings and previous recordings on our Ozobot webinar page if you scroll down to our past webinars. So this is an easy way to introduce your students to Ozobots if you're not able to have them in hand anytime soon. And again, they're completely free, very fun and challenging as well. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to pop it into Q&A or into the chat. And with that, I believe we are at Q&A, and we have Angela who's asking, sometimes our Ozobots get a little crazy and do not follow the code. Any suggestions for preventing this problem? I believe our first lines of attack are to have students recalibrate. That's the very first thing. If a cloud floats over the room, if you dim the lights, the lighting effect in the room can change how bot reads the code. So we recommend calibrating the bot every single time before you use it, before every single lesson. If it stops working in the middle of the lesson, try recalibrating. If that doesn't work, we suggest making sure that the bots are up to date. Tara, are there any other suggestions if those two suggestions don't pan out?
No, that's the way to go about it. Definitely calibration. A lot of people also don't realize that you can just calibrate by drawing a black circle on a sheet of paper. So I actually have only lined paper with me right now, but I'll just kind of give you an example. So you'll take your black marker and you'll draw a circle about the size of the Ozobot, and then you can just calibrate it to that circle right there. So definitely try that out. That usually helps out about 99% of the time. And then just keep in mind that if you're using computer paper and lines that have been printed, that will also be a different a color black than your marker may be. So if that's how you're having issues, the kids are using markers on an already printed sheet, the students can simply draw over that line with their black marker so that it's the same color black that the robot had been calibrated to. So those were the tips and tricks that we recommend.
And Angela, if those don't work, always feel free to reach out at support@ozobot.com, and we have a great customer service team that helps you get to the bottom of it if those tips aren't working for you. We have a question from Sophia in the chat. Looks like, will it save their work if they cannot finish in 45 minutes? So just to clarify, the timing in the lesson is just a recommended time. Students can spend as long as they'd like going through the video and finishing their work. And nothing needs to be saved until they submit their work to you. So if it's something that they're gonna do in pieces, you know, half of it one day and half of it the next day, it's just up to them to make sure that they hang on to their paper so that they can come back to it the next day before they take a photo of it and submit it to you in that screen. And if you're not a Google Classroom user, you're able to go into our lesson library. Let me actually pull that up one more time. That's in Ozobot Classroom. We provide all of the lesson worksheets and video links in the lesson plan, and I'll show you where to find them. Oh, we also have some very exciting seasonal lessons. We have a Dreidelbot lesson that just got released, our Rainbot landing practice here for the holidays, and a Kwanzaa lesson that is available as well. But you can see here, we have the instructional video link where one link takes you to the full complete video and the other takes you to the chapters. So you can see here, it's kind of up to you as a teacher if you think your students would be better off getting the chapters or if you want to give them the full video or both. But this is for teachers who don't have Google Classroom. You can always just copy and paste these links and send things out to your students and share them that way. But yes, so if you're not a Google Classroom user, it's up to you how you want to manage that, and students will have as much time as you will allow them.
And I do see that someone posted Canvas. We have been hearing a lot of Canvas users as well. So that might be the next LMS that we integrate.
I do see Paul has a question. What are some of the more advanced STEM courses that can be explored with Ozobot, and for what age groups are they intended? A wonderful question. Our platform is designed towards kindergarten through 12th grade students. We have a variety of lessons in the lesson library. For those more advanced lessons, we do have one certified educator, Dr. Richard Bourne, who is a computer science professor. I believe he's retired now, but he's created quite a bit of really high level high school and almost some of it could very well be college level computer science content. If you look into the lesson library, you can see you can filter by the grade levels, and his are generally 9th through 12th grade. I believe this is one of his lessons. Yeah, Dr. Richard Bourne. He has all kinds of lessons. He has some things like Pythagorean theorem, all the way to simulating a Vegas casino game if you're into gambling and wanting to recreate some of those casino games in your classroom. I don't know how that'll go over with parents, so you might want to check, but just really, really creative and innovative ways to use the Ozobot for those more advanced skill levels. And feel free to reach out if you have any more questions about specific questions about that. Were there any other questions that came up in the chat while we were presenting?
I've been filtering through the chat. It looks like just about all the questions that got asked. Looks like y'all covered. I know there's just a few things I want to make note of. I see if I can find it here. One of our educators in here is a special education teacher, which I know is a very broad, with special education. You could have some nonverbal students, some high functioning students, but we've seen a lot of success working with some students with Ozobots, especially for those nonverbal students, being able to express themselves creatively using the markers, or if they have some dexterity issues, using them with a tablet or device, or even a laptop or computer. They're fantastic tools to use with some of your special education students as well. So I just wanted to touch on that really quick. So one last chance for everybody before we pick our winners for our prizes. So if you haven't followed us and posted anything on social yet, @maker_Maven and @Ozobot, make sure you do that. We're going to pick the winner here in the next couple of minutes. So any last ditch efforts, get a little extra entry in there, be my guest. And I don't think there's much else that I saw from the chat really that I want to cover right now. But thank you both, Melissa and Tara, for joining us. It was fantastic. I know I sat down and did a training with Tara over the Ozobot classroom earlier in the year. And just to see it all again and the new lesson plans and everything else coming out, I know myself, I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure our educators did as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us and taking some time out of your day. I know it's the end of the day for a lot of us here in the central part and the East Coast. You still got a little bit days ahead of you here, so maybe you can talk your bosses into just giving you the rest of the day off. So it's well deserved. So again, thank you, Melissa and Tara, for joining us. We're so appreciative to be able to work with people like you that are, so willing to help us out and speak to our educators. It really helps not only build the culture and the mindset of using technology to teach our students, but to make it more accessible, because I know for some educators that might not be used to working with this technology might be looking at it from a distance and thinking it's intimidating. And I think you did a fantastic job of showing how easy it is to adapt something like Ozobot into your classroom and your curriculum. So there's 3 things that I wanted to touch on. So make sure you go to classroom.ozobot.com/lessons. Check out all of the resources that they have for you on there. I know Bree's been popping it in the chat here and there throughout the presentation as well. So if you want to take a picture of this screen or filter through the chat and click on it and bookmark it. I know I have it bookmarked, so make sure you do that. It's definitely a good thing to go back to. The remote-friendly lessons that include everything needed for a student to self-paced learn and self-guide through each lesson it's really big right now, especially for some of us that are still doing hybrid and distance learning. The students have been thrown a big curveball this year, and we've seen some students are excelling, but some students are not. And the students being able to self-pace and get through these things at their own leisure, where they can really let the lessons sink in and they can be active, really helps with that knowledge retention. So I think that's a great point there. And integrating with Google Classroom. So I know a lot of you that are still doing distance and hybrid learning are really leaning on your LMSs big time right now to carry a lot of the weight in getting that information to and from your students. Make sure that you are using a great resource like Ozobot Classroom. So
Chris, could
yes.
I chime in really quickly? It looks like Paul has a really great question that I'd just like to address really quickly.
Yeah, of course.
He asked about color blindness, and that's a really, really good question, because colors are such a main part of our product and how our product works. And if I could just share my screen really quickly, we have thought about that not students with color blindness may not be able to access. So we have done everything we can on our end to ensure that students are not excluded from this experience. So you can see here on our color code chart, we've actually included the color labels. And what we recommend to teachers who are working with any students that are colorblind is to ensure that the markers are labeled clearly for your students so that they know which marker is what color. And then here to provide the chart to the student so that they can easily identify what color code with what marker they can use. And in student view as well, for any students that have auditory or visual impairments or need extra support, we've made sure that students can have access to written text directions and audio text directions. So either way, those features are built in and all students are included and supported. Nobody's left out. We know how important inclusion is, and all students deserve access to this content and this instruction. So we've done everything we can to ensure equity and access in that regard. And if anyone has any thoughts or ideas in addition to what we've done, we'd love to hear them, because that is one of our priorities as an education team. And we know that you all have such brilliant ideas and we'd love to hear them as well. So sorry for interrupting, Chris, but I did just want to touch on that.
That's perfect. And that's a great question, Paul. Thank you, because that might be something a lot of us might not think of. And, you don't know how to address it until it's brought up. So I think that was a very important question to bring up. And thank you for that great information, Melissa. That's fantastic. So it looks like we gave you all a little bit of time, and it looks like we do have 2 winners for the EVO Educator Entry Kit. So we have Lori Taylor and Ida Jerkowski. Hopefully I got that one right, because I am bad with names. So congratulations to the 2 of you. That is awesome. I'm so happy for you. I'm going to go ahead and pop my email in the chat right now. And feel free to email me your shipping information, and we'll make sure to get these out in the mail for you probably by tomorrow, or depends on if you don't want something delivered over the weekend, we can get it out Monday, but we can discuss that in email later. So make sure I spell my own name correctly. I think I got it. Okay, perfect. All right, so again, thank you so much. Tons and tons of information. I know it was a lot to really soak in one, hour-long time frame, but luckily all of these are recorded, and you're going to be able to go back and take a look and see anything that you might have missed, or just listen to something again if you're not really sure how to convey it to your students, to see how Melissa or Tara had definitely explained it and how to implement. So we'll give you some links for that here in a minute. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We would love to work with all of you moving forward. So again, we're Maker Maven. We really enjoy doing these type of webinars for you. We're hoping to do a lot more here coming in the fall. So this is our last one of 2020. So I'm sorry y'all don't get to hear my wonderful voice here for a little while. I'm sure it's a blessing for some of you. But if you're looking to do some last minute additions for 2020, or if you're looking to add to your space for 2021 and beyond, please contact us. We'd love to help you. We really try to be more than just a place to buy stuff. That's why we started putting on these webinars for you. We do the free resources that we email you on a monthly and weekly basis, and put so much free content online because more than putting the devices and things in your hands, we really want to get that knowledge to our educators and to our students to make sure that this stuff is accessible as possible for you. So feel free to reach out to us. Go to our website at makermaven.net. You can email us at orders@makermaven.net for any quotes or purchasing inquiries. If you have general questions, you can email me directly. I pop my email in the chat there, or just more general, info@makermaven.net, or you can call us anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Central Time at 877-MAKER-75. That is 877-625-3775. And if you got your device with you, which I'm sure you do, there's a little QR code on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our digital catalog, where we try to keep it as up-to-date as possible. A lot of our educators are used to getting printed catalogs of material, but working with education, things change so fast that by the time we print a catalog and get it to you, it's already outdated. So this is the best way and the most green way to convey that information to you. So highly suggest you scanning that QR code and throwing a little bookmark on that as well. So we are hoping to have a lot more great content for everybody moving into 2021. I know everybody's ready for 2020 to be over, and we're looking to greener pastures on the other side. So we're planning on doing a lot of wonderful things online. We're going to be doing a whole new webinar series. We're still working out some details for that, and we'll be sure to announce that on all of our social media, all of our emails, our newsletters, our blogs, and also our YouTube. And we have a brand new Instagram channel, if you're not tired of hearing me saying that, or Instagram profile page, whatever they're called. That, Bree, you know more than I do. Make sure you give us a follow at maker_maven. And if you have missed any of our previous webinars, or if you want to go back and see this one as well, or if you have any other of your coworkers or colleagues that you think might benefit from some of these webinars, go to our YouTube channel, share some links with them so they can learn a little bit more about what we have to offer and the wonderful partners that we work with. They're always going to be there. These webinars are always going to be free for you. So please, word of mouth marketing is the best that we can get. So the more you talk and share, the more outreach we can get, and the more these type of productions and the higher level we'll be able to go with these things in the future. But thank you all so much for joining us in 2020. We look forward to see you again in 2021. And that's all I have for everybody today. And thank you so much. Look forward to seeing everybody again. Thank you so much, Melissa and Tara and Brianna. Y'all were such a big help today. Brianna, you've been a big help all year, and you will continue to be a big help. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.